is a review of the Edgenuity lesson, secants, tangents, and angles. So when you're trying to figure out which formula to use, you just need to pay attention in this lesson to where the vertex of your angle is. So here, see how it's inside the circle? The way you do this one is the measure of your angle is going to be half of the arc, basically that it projects, so it's making this arc A, plus the arc that's directly behind it, B. If your vertex is outside the circle, like this one is, the measure of your angle is going to be half of the bigger arc, so that's always the one that's further away, it's going to be bigger. So half of the bigger arc minus the littler arc. So half of farther away minus closer. So for example 1, we have our vertex inside the circle. So if I have to find the measure of angle 1, it's going to be half of the arc directly in front of it plus the arc directly behind it. So we're going to want half of 62, which is 31 degrees. Okay, so on the next one, we have our we have our vertex outside the circle. So the measure of angle 1 is going to be half of the bigger arc minus the littler arc. So the bigger arc is 106, the furthest away, minus the littler arc. So we want half of 70 degrees, which is 35 degrees. Okay, this next one is on your quiz, well, depending on which version you get, and it's kind of tricky. So on this one, we're finding the measure of arc FH, which is down here. So we don't have a whole lot of information for FH. All we know is that this angle here is 32 degrees. So the angle is half of bigger arc, which we don't know, because if you follow, here, let me highlight it. We follow just this part right here. This is our bigger arc minus our smaller arc, which we don't have any of that information. But what we can do is we can use this angle over here to help us out. So here I have enough information to solve for this arc, and then I'd have enough information to solve for FH. So the angle, 37 degrees, is half of the bigger arc, I'm just putting an X there because we don't know what it is yet, minus the littler arc, 38. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is to undo that fraction in the front, I'm going to multiply both sides by 2, because half of 2 is just 1, so it cancels. So we end up with 74 equals x minus 38. So then the last thing we have to do is just add 38 to both sides. And we will get that x right here is 112. Well, now that I know that, I know what the bigger arc is. So I'm going to move this equation up because I didn't give myself enough space. So our angle is half of the bigger arc, which we just figured out was 112, minus the smaller arc, FH, which we are solving for. So again, I'm going to go ahead and multiply both sides by 2 to get rid of that half. And then I'm going to subtract 112 from both sides. So we have negative 48 equals negative x. And remember, to undo a negative, you can either divide both sides by -1 or multiply both sides by -1. So we got that f is 48 degrees, or excuse me, FH is 48 degrees. These ones look a little different, but you're still going to do them the exact same way. Remember, the only thing that you need to worry about is where the vertex is. So this one, the vertex is outside. So again, the angle is half of the big arc minus the small arc, like that. So we're looking for the measure of angle 1. So the angle is going to be half of bigger arc minus littler arc. So 210 minus 150 is 60. Half of 60 is 30 degrees. Okay, last one here. Again, vertex outside the circle. So angle is half of big arc minus small arc. So this one we know the angle, so we're going to plug it in for that symbol there. So I'm going to say 21 degrees, because that's our angle, equals half of, if I go all the way down, we have the bigger arc, that's the one that's further away, minus the smaller arc. That's what we're solving for right here, measure of arc AB. So again, to undo that half, I'm going to multiply both sides by 2. And then I'm going to go ahead and subtract 119 from both sides. And again, negative 77 equals negative x. Divide both sides by negative 1. And we get the measure of arc AB is 77 degrees.